is a sequel to the interview done with Michael Williams, the television host of Soul in the City. The previous show was shot at cable TV and focused on Michael's personal career. In this show, we'll meet some of the other people who work at City TV MuchMusic. We'll tour their facilities, and we'll see Michael at work. So stay tuned for Careers. Hi, I'm Peter Wolfl, and I'm really excited because we have an opportunity to tape this week's episode of Careers down at City TV MuchMusic. This is an entirely new approach for us because normally we always shoot our shows in the studio. What we're going to see today? Well, we're going to have a tour of the facilities here, and we're going to meet some of the people and find out what it really takes to put a television show together. Dennis, from just looking around here at City TV, it seems pretty clear that the majority of the people seem to work behind the camera instead of in the front of the camera. Starting off with you, what's your role here?
It's head of daycare services. It's basically driving the car. It's overseeing the show, working with the look, the flow, organizational to a part, creative to a part, and a lot of it is just taking care of details. That there's a myriad of things that come up in a day, so it's just dealing with those things and integrating them into the show.
What were some of the steps that you went through to get to where you are now?
I started off from a technical background, working through audio as a technical director, and then I was a general production director, directing different kinds of shows, public affairs, talk shows, music shows, concerts, those kinds of things. And then when Much went on Surface, I came over to Much and was directing there, and then since then I've moved into the production side.
Dennis, what are the different people then that would be working behind the scenes to make a show?
Well, real quickly, you have the director of music programming and some upper administrative people. Then at the next level would be the producers, associate producers. We have some editors, and then we get into the crew, which would be director TD. It's a hybrid function. Audio, PA, G5 that does the electronic graphics that you see. Audio and Much Master, VTR. So that's basically the technical side.
Like it's almost 10 people working on a show.
Oh, there's more than that. There's probably about 14, 15 generally at a given time who are doing something involved with the show.
What does it take to put a television show like this together? Like what kind of steps would you be going through to produce a show from the beginning to the end?
Okay, basically your show starts like this, a blank page. Then it goes to this material, with lots of these, and you end up with this, a full page. This then goes to a handful of people who have to put the videos together and technically put them on air. And it ends up on a piece of tape. That's very simplistic. Basically, what you need is everything starts with an idea. Okay, what are you trying to present? How are you going to present it? What context? What format? A lot of that's details. Whether it's 1 inch, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Your source material. What kind of show you're doing? If you're doing a specialty show, then you want to have material that is directed towards the given purpose of that show. If it's, in our case, entertainment, if you're doing a show about country music, you're going to look for something that has that bent. You're going to look for sound bites, interviews, segments with artists who've been in or you've interviewed previously, put them in a sound bite so that you can build yourself, an hour that's going to, portray a certain style or a certain idea about music. And
so do you try to put a script together before the show?
Generally, it's not so scripted on what we do in what we call the flow part of the show. A lot of it is ad-lib. There's a certain spontaneity that the VJs will research, and they have an idea about what they want to do, but it's not scripted like a news script would be scripted. When we're doing specialty shows or stuff that's going to be post-produced, and there's a lot of editing involved, in a case like that, a lot more of that would be scripted.
Okay, then what happens after the script is put together or the idea is conceived?
Well, then you have to, okay, how do I want to take this this piece of paper and make it work on tape. And that's where you decide what you're going to, you know, whether you're going to shoot it. You can do this live, whether it's going to be shot on location, what location, what kind of support viz you need, whether you need artist interaction on it, whether you need graphics, whether you need what kind of musical bed you want to put with it, what kind of feeling you want to have, which in editing is important, the kind of pace that it's edited with, whether you're going to have special effects, how slick the production's going to be. All of these things have some kind of impact at different places in the line, and then finally it comes down to packaging that whole thing, and you've got product. And the other part we do is we do that live, which is what a large portion of the show is. It's just this ongoing living creature that we, you know, kind of feed on a daily basis.
That saves you from having to do a lot of editing.
Yeah, a lot of editing. It also means that there's a lot of, you know, flaws and mistakes or little things that slip through the seams, but you know, in the nature of live television, that spontaneity is something that is desirable. You know, if you want, you know, really slick Entertainment Tonight kind of look to everything, well, there's no way you can do that live.
It's one of the things that makes the show interesting.
That's right, and it also makes it a lot more fun around here, because when you're doing live television, it's a much higher intensity, and people just enjoy it. They work better with that kind of energy around them.
Are you programming in all the titles right now?
That's right. Well, I'm going to air right now with I'll Be There For You, Bon Jovi.
So you just put that on right now, the I'll Be There For You,
That's
Bon
right.
Jovi?
That's right.
I'm counting. 10, 9, 8.
At the top and the tail of every song, we like to key it so people know the band and the song, then the record company, if they want to go out and buy it, know what to look for.
Great. So all the songs come as raw footage, do they? And then you just put your own thing on top of it?
These are all done live, that's right. Yep. And then the top 30 every week is changing, so every week we have to change it all around the numbers and everything. So it's not too bad, though.
What else do you do in this position here?
During the show, I'm responsible for programming Molsonizers, and they're the concert listings that you see at the end of a pack of about 3 songs. And I just have to make sure that the same one isn't played within the same 8-hour shift. And plus, you know, you try and match the Molsonizer with the type of bands you just played in the pack. You know, if you have a blue rodeo Molsonizer and you just played the band, and you try and put that Molsonizer right after, right. Stuff like that. So.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.
Minute 30 to the floor.
Great, hi.
Hello.
Can you tell us what you just did?
Okay, well, I was counting to the bumper, which tells our viewers what's coming up next. And then I counted to the commercial. And then I alerted the crew that we are a minute 30 to the floor, which is when the VJ speaks.
Oh, super.
The production assistant's role is to time all elements of the show and to alert the crew to any changes. She is also concerned with the Canadian content of the videos that they play. Next, we spoke with the VTR operator.
I'm involved with the playback of all the videos and commercials, and any shots and vids that is shown on television itself on the nation's music station.
So how do you do that?
Well, I play through 5 Betacams and 3 3/4, which we're -1 right now, and the PA counts me down and keeps me in track of what order we're going through, and that's we stay on a 2-second pre-roll, and everything's pretty well straightforward, and I'm about to do my job right now.
Go for it.
2, 1.
That was hard, real hard.
How long have you been doing this?
Almost 3 years.
How did you get involved with it?
Through a high school program. It was a television production, and through co-op. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
That's good. Do you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, definitely. No other place would beat it.
The floater has to be able to do all kinds of different jobs, whether it is directing the show, doing the lighting, camera work, or VTR playback. When we spoke to him, he was on the audio board.
So as an audio man, what's your responsibility?
Controlling all of the sound that comes out on MuchMusic here. All the VTR machines and turntables, cassettes, reel-to-reel tapes, they all come through this board here, and I have to mix all the different sources together.
Whether it's an interview or it's music.
An interview, a live band playing in here. We sometimes have 7, 8 musicians in a band set up in the studio here.
Oh, is that right? That must be exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting because while we're getting ready and setting up the sound for the band playing, we still have a live show that's on the air that we're trying to do too. So it's like doing 2, 3 different jobs at one time. Keeps you busy.
Thanks a lot. And we'll be back with Careers in just a moment.
Over 500,000 Canadians are so visually impaired that reading a sign or getting any visual information is a real problem. We all have the right to know, to be informed. Help us improve access to information for blind and visually impaired Canadians. Contact the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Share our insight.
Normally the crew has the shot to, depends on what sort of shot we're doing, but basically the crew sets up all the shots, and it's just my business to get in them as soon as I can so that they can do all the possible things.
In this case, it seemed like you really had to be on your toes because you only had a few seconds and you had to be in there and you had to know what to say.
Well, I knew what I was going to say. I had a very good idea as to what I was going to say, but I mean, it just, I mean, it's, as you can see here, it just, we flow off of one another, so it's a little bit like, it's
very ad-lib.
The room is sort of an energy trap, right? It's an energy trap. It's like being caught in the middle of a nuclear reactor where there's all this fusion going on, and this is like constant fusion all the time. So we're bouncing off of one another. I mean, I gave the audio track to the sound man, and he was able to work with it, and I asked him there, was okay? And so it was okay. Everybody said it was fine. So then we just go, and they just sort of roll with it, and ideas just come, and people just have them, and we just do things. It's kind of a relaxed day because it's a holiday. It's Victoria Day. Although I hear Victoria was not a nice girl, but you know, it's a holiday. We got Richard Marx.
Yeah, drive the car. Somebody's got to drive the car. Make sure all the kids behave. You know, they don't litter. You know, don't hurt each other, poke sharp things at each other, stuff like that.
How do you keep everybody in line here?
Brute force, strength, intimidation.
A whip?
No, you know, lots of ass kissing. Can I say that? It's only cable. What the hell? Sure. Yeah. No, they're a good bunch of people, and they're professional. They're young, but there's still a professional motivation. So basically, you just have to point them in the right direction, and they'll follow their own lead.
How long have you been in this business, Dennis?
13 plus.
Oh, really? How did you get into it?
I actually was working with a band as a road manager, and it had a musical background, and when I came here, they were looking for somebody who could mix music, and I had come in trying to sell a film that I'd made in college, so I figured, why not? I'm looking for a job in film. Sure, I'll work in sound. So I figured I'd be here 9 months, and 13 years later, I'm still here, so it was basically one of those opportunity knocked, and I went for it. So
once having gotten a job here, what were the steps you went through to get to where you are now?
Oh, I lied, begged, pleaded. No, after about two odd years in audio, you learn a control room, so you learn control room technique. I took a job as technical director, and there you're sitting beside a director, so the next obvious step after a couple of years was to direct. So I was directing some music shows and public affairs, afternoon talk shows, just a variety of different kinds of shows. And then when the Much service started, they needed somebody to kick that off, so I went over and did that for a few years, and now I've assumed the mantle of head of daycare services now, so.
Dennis used to be a technical director, which was the position that we interviewed next.
Can you pull out a bit the headroom? Watch out for the headrooms. Okay, now he's sitting up there.
Are you going to love it or are you not going to love it? Jody Watley, she's going to be touring Canada starting in June in Vancouver. This is Jody Watley from the album Living Large.
What's your title here? What do you do? Your job?
Technical director and director. So it's especially for MuchMusic because most of the time we have only one camera, so we don't really need a director full time. So I switch and I direct at the same time. It's pretty hectic when we get a live band with 4 cameras, but it's a good learning experience, I guess. So
what's the difference between technical director and director?
A director usually just sits down and directs the cameraman in the shots and say, and then directs the switcher to say which source he wants to go to, and tells the camera which shots he wants to see, where he wants to go as a source next, or whatever. And the technical director usually only takes care of the technical side of the show and switches during the show and takes orders from the director where he's going to switch or what effect or what kind of transition. So in my case, I talk to myself. So I say, okay, Sylvie, let's go to camera 1. Okay, I'll switch. So that's what's happening. In Quebec, we have a different schooling system, which is we have the CEGEP. And the CEGEP is like college. It's between high school and university. And in Quebec, you can... hi, Michael. In Quebec, you can do a professional course right there at the CEGEP, at that college, which on the technical side, you go there for 3 years and you don't go to university. If you're on general side, you do 2 years and then you go to university. So our people, when they get to university, they're older than the people here in Ontario.
So you came here right out of school?
No, I went, at first I didn't get hired. It was in 1980 that I finished, and there wasn't that many women in television, especially on the technical side of it. My first job I applied, they told me I couldn't do television because the first stage was stagehand, and I couldn't transport anything because I was a woman, right? So for him, my life was over in television before even I started. So I decided to go to Montreal and search around there. And CTV, I went into television only 3 years after I finished my school. So I didn't despair, did other jobs in between. And finally CTV hired me in 1983, beginning of 83, as a tape operator. And I stayed with them for 3 years and then became an editor. Came up to Toronto because I was tired of being a button pusher. And finally came up here, did freelance, worked at CBC French part-time doing editing shows and news, and then they hired me here for the French MuchMusic, which I was an audio operator at the beginning, and became a director, technical director in 1 year.
This is City TV's MuchMusic's Salt and Pepper camera team right here. Maybe you can tell us a little bit what you do.
Well, we're camera and lighting people here at MuchMusic, and basically what we do is we light the VJ and we set up the shots, and we make them look good, which isn't too hard.
How did you get involved with this?
Get involved with, went from tape to camera. Used to be a tape op.
Did you get some schooling before you came here?
No.
This particular station, it's good the fact that they do allow people to come in and volunteer. One of the things is get some education, go to a community college or volunteer at a cable station such as yourself, and then try to kind of work your way in, through volunteering. That's probably the best thing I could suggest.
Thanks very much.
No problem.
For a change of pace, we dropped into City Pulse News where we met producers, anchors, and reporters. We asked them how they broke into TV journalism.
I started out teaching school, of all things. I taught geography and history in Ottawa about 20 years ago, and I didn't enjoy that. After 2 years, I quit that, but got hired to make educational television programs for schools. That's still in Ottawa.
Did you have experience in that?
No. I was a teacher, though, working in educational television. They had people there in this small television unit. It was run by the Ottawa Board of Education. It wasn't part of TV Ontario or anything larger. And I was a teacher and helped write scripts and present things on camera. And 1972, that was 2 years there, the money got cut back, so I left and got hired as a summer trainee radio producer by CBC for 13 weeks. And I stayed there for 3 years. This was in Ottawa. Then moved to Montreal because I wanted to work more closely in the arts and wanted to live in a larger city. So I worked for the Grand Ballet Canadien, doing publicity and promotion. Then went on from there to do some radio work. And we did some work for the Canada Council. And I got hired by the Montreal Star to write a column for them, social column. And the Montreal Star, they'd had a strike in 1978 and 79. This was after the strike and before the paper folded. They never recovered from the strike. So moved here to work for the Toronto Star and then got some work here at City, part-time, then worked, did a variety of things, freelance. Worked for the Canada Council for a year in Ottawa, again, as 25th anniversary coordinator. Worked for Canada AM. I did movie and reviews and entertainment news for Canada AM, and then started here at City 5 years ago, full-time. And I also have written for the Toronto Sun. I wrote a social column for them called Panache for 5 years, and I now write a column called Business People for the Financial Post.
Why change from CTV to City?
Because it was a more lucrative offer, it was an opportunity, and because they asked me.
Oh, good. What would you suggest to people nowadays who want to get into television as a career?
Well, do what you're doing and work for one of the cable companies. Try to get hired if you can on even a part-time basis, or to get some experience. I didn't go through journalism school myself, but those courses are very good. The other thing is that in talking to a chap I know who helps people prepare resumes and helps people get jobs, he says you prepare yourself for the job you would like to have by the things that you emphasize in the job that you now have, and how you choose to spend your free time, what your interests are. And as I look back on my career, you know, each job was more interesting, each was more focused in the arts and communications, the performance element. There was certainly that, and even in teaching school. So each job has been a little better, a little closer to what it is I'm happiest doing.
So even if you're a school teacher, you can still end up in television.
Absolutely, and I'm still writing a newspaper column, right, for the Financial Post now a couple of days a week, so absolutely, sure. There's hope for all of us.
Fantastic, thanks a lot.
Okay, good.
Clint, maybe can you tell us what you do here? What's your role as producer?
At City, the producer is ostensibly in charge of the crew on any given day. My job is to come in at the beginning of the day and decide what the daily news agenda will be, to assign it in conjunction with our assignment editor who works over there, and by noon we have an idea for the 7 or 8 reporters who are working as to what stories they'll work on, and then throughout the afternoon I just sort of shepherd it through, wait for it to fall apart and try and fix it before it goes to air at 6 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock the producer's in the control room making the crucial last-minute decisions as to what airs, what doesn't air, what should be pulled, what should be shortened or lengthened, when there should be a chat between the sports host and the anchorman, when we have no time. So City plays off being Toronto's news, and at a proportionate basis, we'd say 70% of our news is local, 30% is international. The local comes through assignment, the cameramen and the reporters who gather it. The international comes off the wire and through the writers up there on the writing desk.
We get our stories many ways. One way we get it, things happen. You hear them on the scanners. Another way, people call them in. Another way, we dig them out. Another thing, you get stories all different ways. There's no one way to get a story.
How long have you been in this business yourself?
It's going to be 9 years. Been here.
And how did you get into it?
I came in, there's many different ways to came in. I came in, basically I was doing something totally outside of the media, but it was something that I really wanted to do, so I just, I worked on getting this job for about 9-10 months until they finally gave me a chance, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Were you doing journalism, though? Like,
no.
How did you approach it?
I did 5 years at university, did a specialist degree in psychology, a graduate degree in criminology, and I was working for Legal Aid and Ministry of Corrections. So I had a good background when I came in here because I offered them an expertise, a field of expertise, the legal side, that they didn't have here. And as a trade-off, I came here, and for 2 years I worked 12 hours a day, 2 shows, until I learned the business.
And you kept knocking on the door until they opened it?
Twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. The old news director didn't get sick of me. He kept saying, no, Warren, you got to go work up in Nooka, Saskatchewan. And I'd say, well, I don't want to do that. I got a good job now. I don't want to work up there. And until finally they said, okay, well, we'll do a little 3-month experiment. We'll let you do it. We'll let you come off the street and see if you can do it. And I knew once they gave me that opportunity, I wasn't going to blow it.
Great.
10 seconds. I got an extreme wide shot here. 3, 2.
Well, editing's about the most important part of the City Pulse newsroom. Actually, everything that comes in must come through one of these 8 editing bays that we have along here, and is supervised by a editing supervisor up at the end, controlled. You sort of have to book your time and come in. The reason I say it's so important is because it's like the sieve through which everything must pass before it goes on the air. It's the last chance to catch a mistake, to catch the wrong spelling on a name, to correct, the wrong face on a story. Somebody says that's Premier Peterson, we show a shot of Mulrooney. Unlikely to happen, but it's the last chance to catch it. It's very high pressure. These guys will go through 70 tapes, 80 tapes of raw, between 7 of them in a day. So that's 10 tapes each, probably, back and forth, forward and back.
How long would one typically have to edit a show?
Well, we can do a story in as short as 20 minutes if you have a reporter that really knows what he's doing. He can come flying in here out of the parking lot with 20 minutes to deadline and get it cut. Well, our serials that would come out as 25 minutes on the air require 45 hours of editing, I'd say. Almost a full week to cut for five-minute segments. So
after the editing done, will you be doing voiceovers on top of that in many cases?
voiceovers go first. They put them in as part of editing. We cut together sound, background sound, music, should it be required, reporter's voice, and pictures, all in one mix, basically. The voiceover is prepared ahead of time according to the script.
When did you know that you wanted to do this kind of job, or did you just kind of fall into it?
I fell into it, and I think that a lot of people do in broadcasting. I studied journalism, and I studied radio and television arts, and I really didn't envision a career on camera. When I was thinking about broadcasting, I wanted to be a good writer. Writing was my first love, and I began in broadcasting as a writer. I wrote for radio initially, and then I moved into television. I came to City from Global as a writer, and through happy circumstance and accident, someone approached me to try reporting, which I did, and that worked out rather well.
Do you have any suggestions for anybody who might want to eventually get into this kind of career themselves?
Well, I think that a good academic background is important in broadcast journalism. I think that you don't necessarily need a journalism degree, but certainly a degree in English or economics or political science, something that gives you an advantage over someone else in terms of the competitive nature of broadcasting. I think you need a lot of curiosity, and you have to be prepared to work very, very long hours, bad shifts, for little money, for a long time. And if you're lucky, and luck has a great deal to do with success, I think, then the chances are you'll do well.
The reality is you hire people. When you need people, there's somebody there. You don't have to do too much digging in the files, and that's where opportunity is so important, and getting a foot in the door. That's the main.
How should you get your foot in the door, though?
Any way you can, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's in anything. I mean, be creative. Think of some way you can grab somebody's interest. Be persistent. Don't give up. Be optimistic, positive, because you have to have those traits to survive in television. It's a tough business. You develop a thick skin. It can be very transient, and it's not. It's not a career for everybody.
Expect to have a few doors slammed in your face before one opens.
Yeah, you get a flat nose from door slamming. When I was looking for a job in film originally, and I had lots of doors closed. But you just, it's another door. You got to keep going. That's all there is to it.
Dennis, thank you very much for the opportunity of letting us tape the show down here. It was a pleasure meeting you and all the other crew.
I hope it's helped. Anyone who's interested in broadcast, either just from pure interest or who's interested in getting into it, pique their curiosity one way or the other, and who knows, maybe we'll see you here one day.
Well, I sure hope so. Take care.